So you've had the opportunity to already talk a little bit about things like color or how we use typography and how we use symbols. Um, but I also wanted to give you an idea to have a small introduction about what is cartography and how it started. And we know how we were working with cartography today, but it didn't used to be like that in the past. So basically, when we talk about cartography, what we try to do is to communicate some type of geographical phenomenon, right? So cartography has to do with visual communication. There are many, many different types of maps, and the creation of any new map has to answer in certain questions, like the ones that you see on the slide. So what is its purpose? Where do we want to address it to? Do we want to address it to the general public? Does it go to a scientific publication? Do we need to give it to a municipality, or do we need to just prepare a report? So depending on what type of purpose the map has, we have different things that we can basically do. It also matters the audience we address. So Spiros, for instance, already mentioned you that we have different fonts that we can use. We use different type of art in a map when we address it, let's say, to maybe high schools, and we use different types of maps when we need to address a scientific audience. And of course, what also is very important is the medium of dissemination. There are nowadays many types of different maps. You can find web maps, right, that you can see through your Chrome or Firefox or whatever. There are printed maps. There are still printed maps. Some people use them. And of course, there are the maps that we export for other purposes. So there are different things that we have to keep in mind when we create a new map, okay? And what you should keep in mind is that maps and cartography is a little bit of art. I have this nice short video by a guy that you will probably hear us or already heard Spiros talk a lot about. I will. Okay. Do you hear the sound?
Now it's not exposed, so
Okay,
for sure we
I
can.
have to see. I think I have to share it in a different way.
In
Okay.
ArcGIS Online.
Okay.
Points that look.
Okay, so um, this guy is called John Nelson, and he works in ESRI, and he's basically a cartographer, and he does amazing things. So we will give you things to read from him. But because I want to point out that cartography is also a little bit of an art, this is why I just give you this video. It's 2 minutes, so you can just have a
Lighthouses.
look.
I'll start by adding data. This data comes from ArcGIS Online. I'll search for lighthouses, and I'll take this one from the state of Washington. Thank you, Robin from UCSD. And now I'll symbolize these so they look more like little glowing sources of light rather than discrete map symbols. And to do this, I'm going to choose firefly symbology. So instead of basic shapes, I'll choose firefly and just pick this yellow one. And I'll set its size to about 20, whatever looks right. And next, I'm going to duplicate this layer so I have a copy of it. And I'll drag it down to be the bottommost layer. And then I'll crank its size all the way up, because this is going to be my sneaky illumination layer. Speaking of which, let me do a little bit of housekeeping and name these points and illumination so that I can keep them straight. Next, I'm going to darken my imagery base map so that my illumination layer has something to illuminate. So I'll dive into the base map, choose its source world imagery layer, and then I'll check out the effects over here on the right. I'm going to activate brightness and contrast, and I'll set this so that there's a brightness of 50, which is darker than normal, and then a contrast of 100, which is normal. And then I can go back to my layers and select that beautiful illumination layer, and I'm going to give it a blend mode of soft light. Soft light will fuse the bright tones of this layer with the base map. So the visual result is a boosting of the brightness of the dark underlying base map wherever there's an illumination point. And this sort of thing fits the energy of a lighthouse map. I like it. Here's a quick before after. I like it so much, in fact, that I'd like it to be even stronger. So I'm going to duplicate this layer to really ramp it up. And this is how you can paint with light in ArcGIS Online, using blend modes and effects. And your data doesn't have to be literal points of light, like this lighthouse layer. There are all sorts of themes or story maps that might benefit from an illumination effect like this.
So yeah, this was just to give you an idea of the different things that you can do when you work with GIS. So it depends on what you want to do. But there is a little bit of an art here and there sometimes when we have the opportunity anyway. So for those of you who feel a bit artistic, you can have a look at, he has a YouTube channel. So he has a lot of videos that you can find and do many, many nice things. And he works a lot with the ArcGIS Online. We will not be focusing so much in our course or on ArcGIS Online, but you will have other courses that you will also hear about it. So keep it in mind. I'm sure it will be useful during your 2-year courses in our master in any case. Okay.
Sorry, can I ask the name again from this
Yeah, it's
guy?
John Nelson. I
Okay.
can also write it in the chat. Remind me afterwards. But you can also find a lot of material from him in, I don't know if you've already done that. I can show you later. If you work in ArcGIS Pro, you can also use data from ArcGIS Online, search, for data. So he also has uploaded a lot of data there, so you can also steal some of his data and experiment yourselves, okay? You know that cartography and maps is not something new. It's actually quite old. And it had to do with us humans needing to record or classify some features or understand, navigate, see where we are. So basically, this human need to do all these things, we can say that it was something like the precursor of the geographic information systems as we know them now. They are quite different from what they used to be in the past. But in any case, if we have a look at the history of cartography, we can find different maps, different ages of maps, of course, but I just chose to show you some examples here from older maps. So this is from an Hungarian American cartographer. It's a quite famous example of cartography. This is from 1931, but he was one of the cartographers who popularized, let's say, in a sense, the physiographic map style. Okay, so you can see in this map that you have these pictorial, let's say, relief symbols, and we don't have these traditional contours that we see in most, even in older maps. So the oldest known maps were drawn in parchment, just to give you an idea of that. And then if we look into the history of cartography, Ptolemy was considered as one of the foundational figures of geography and in the study of cartography. This is part of his work in 1482 in Geographia, which is actually considered to include the first coordinate system, and it was used to locate important places in the Roman Empire. So he is considered a quite foundational figure in the area of cartography in general. Then if we look a little bit after the era of Ptolemy, there were a few centuries that cartography, the science of cartography in general, remained quite dormant because we entered the Middle Ages after the decline of the Roman Empire. So during that time period, we find very few surviving maps, less than 600 maps, and one example from the Middle Ages is the map that you see here. It's one of the best known maps for this period. Okay, and it is located nowadays somewhere in England. Then If we look a little bit at the Romans were very interested in documenting property registries. So one very characteristic example of cartography is what we call the Roman cadastre. It was, as you can see also in the slide, it was something like a public registry used by the Romans in order to record the ownership, the boundaries, and the values of land. So it is a very characteristic thing that the Romans did during their time. And of course, some of the oldest maps that we find were actually designed in order to facilitate sea voyages. So in these types of maps, we can see that most of the times the coastline is very, very detailedly drawn. We have point information about the depth, and most of these maps do not give any particular detail about the inland areas, okay? So you see different examples. This is from somewhere the 1200, 1300. We can see different maps, and as sea voyages continued, then they started drawing more and more maps. And of course, after some time, going closer to where we are now, a significant advance in cartography was the military cartography, where we started to have a lot of maps with a lot of details in terms of topography and things like that. So in many countries, in Greece for sure, the military cartographers were responsible for the topographic maps and the navigation maps of the country. So in our case, for instance, the Hellenic Military Geographical Service is the official mapping agency in Greece. And if we want to obtain some topographical maps, we usually have to go and ask them. So they are military cartography contributed in having more detailed topographic maps. You can see an example here, okay? This is from 1954. Another popular cartographic form was also what we call panoramic maps, like the one that you see here. This is from the Halifax County in Canada, and they were used to depict cities and towns, mainly in the United States and Canada, during the 19th and 20th century. So you can see they are like perspective maps, or so like aerial views, but they're not photographic representations. They are depicted, they are actually drawn maps, okay? And then as cartography evolved, we started having the first specialized maps. This map that you see here, since we have some geologists also, is the first geological map of the city of Paris. It was published in 1811, and it's actually considered as some sort of landmark in the history of specialized cartography. Okay, so thematic cartography in the sense that we are focusing on a particular topic. It was one of the first maps that tried to separate the different rock layers, but also tried to use color to represent different geological time, which was very original during his time anyway. And of course, as we advance towards today, you can imagine that the computer era played a significant role into the evolution also of GIS and cartography in general. So by the time different things started evolving, like having microprocessors, like having the internet, the World Wide Web, multimedia, and things like that, remote sensing. All of these contributed into the recent evolution of GIS as we know it today. Okay. Now, when we talk about cartography and when we talk about the creation of maps, we always have to keep in mind some rules and some things that help our maps be more clear and more, let's say, effective. So, as you can see here, for instance, there are these 3 points that are somewhat the core principles when we talk about cartographic communication. Our maps need to be clear, to have a clarity. They need to have some sort of structure and design in a way. So we need to create our maps in a way that we guide the reader to understand its purpose. And they must have integrity in the sense that they have to try to present the data as realistically as possible, okay? There are some conventions that we need to do sometimes, but in any case, we have to try to always represent our data as realistically as possible. And there are some 5 points that we consider as, let's say, fundamental principles of cartographic design or map design, whatever you want to call it. And it has to do with how the different map elements that we use, how we choose them, how we arrange them, and how we display them in a way in order to have an effective communication of the topic that we're trying to show on our map. So you can see that we have, for instance, readability or legibility, we have visual contrast, and we will see each of them separately in any case. Visual separation or differentiation, the visual hierarchy, and the balance. So all of these different elements, we always need to have them in mind. So for instance, when we have text on our maps, we have to try to not have a very low contrast there or to not have our text too small. The map symbols that we use need to be in a way legible and relatively easy to understand. So not try to decipher what its symbol means in detail, but try to use symbols that are relatively easy to understand. When we use symbols, we have to try to convey the sense of what it represents whenever that's possible. If we can use symbols that the reader does not have to check the legend to see what it is a good effort to put on a map. And of course, we have to try for the different elements that are contained in a map to not be too close to each other or even overlap. So there are different things that we try to do. And when you look at maps, you can try to start to see which maps are good and which maps are bad, for instance, by keeping such rules in mind. Okay. No, sorry, I had this and I forgot about it. Okay. So when we talk about when we talk about visual contrast, it has to do with the way the different features we have on our map contrast with their background. For instance, it makes no sense to have white text on a white or off-white background, okay, because it will not be visible. So this principle is important also for the readability of a map, and it ensures that the map's features stand out against the base map or the background colors. So here, for instance, you can see a very simplified example, let's say, of a map where we can see label roads and some distinct point symbols that do not overlap or clutter the space. So we need to take into account to use a font size that is appropriate for the scale and to try to use fonts that make all names to be, for instance, easily legible. Then there is what we call visual separation or differentiation, which has to do with the fact to try to have to create a map where the map elements and the background are separated, can be differentiated. So someone who takes the map can understand what is the background and what are the map elements. So we need to be able to, as readers, I mean, we need to be able to distinguish the main area from the background. So we have to use the appropriate contrast, so that the map can attract the reader's eye and the basic map elements stand out and not our background. So sometimes when we use in our maps the light gray or very light gray color for the background, we can see that the most important features, the most important elements are better placed in the foreground. So we have to keep that always in mind. This is an example of what we talked about. You can see, for instance, here this this area, and you can notice that the wider area is used is represented by this light gray or very more mundane tones, and the places that we want to show or the creator wants to show are represented by by brighter colors, and they stand out in relation to the rest of the area. Then there is what we call a visual hierarchy, which has to do with how we classify map objects according to their relative importance or content. So we usually do this even if we don't realize it. What usually happens is that the reader of a map will first observe the map elements that have been placed by whoever the creator was at the top of the visual hierarchy. So if you look at the map, for sure you will notice that usually the largest elements are the first things that we notice, and we are most likely to notice and read. Items or elements that are located in the center of the map are higher in the visual hierarchy than elements that are at the bottom of the map, for instance. Of course, color plays a very important role into how to catch the reader's attention. Bright colors, for instance, stand out more than light colors. So as cartographers, as designers of maps, we can manipulate in a way the visual hierarchy because we want to draw a reader's attention to some key elements in our layout, but we want to also try to keep other elements on the same visual level in the sense so they do not distract the reader. So it's really up to us how we will design our map to cover these types of principles. And then there is the last, let's say, the last thing, which is called balance, and has to do with how the different map elements are distributed within a layout. So a well-balanced layout tries to utilize the entire map space. So there are different things that we can try and do in order to have some balance on our map. We want to try and create something in the end that is not too dense or that shows that there is a lot of white space without meaning around our final layout, okay? And to give you an idea about all these things that we talked about, there is a nice video that I would like to share with you or try to share with you, which has to do with what we call visual hierarchy on maps. So let me try and do this. So it's also from a designer working in ArcGIS, in ESRI. So it's a short video, but I would like to play it for you and have a look and just start thinking about all those things that we talked about. Okay.
When people look at your map, what do you want them to notice first? In order to make an effective map, that's something you need to decide. Hi, I'm Heather and I'm a cartographer. Today I'm working in ArcGIS Online. In this map, I want people to notice this layer first. It's the most important thing in this map according to the goals of the project. The second most important thing is this layer. After that, it's the buildings. And the least important thing, although it's still important, is the base map. Now that I've established a clear hierarchy for my layers, I need to make sure that the visual hierarchy matches. Visual hierarchy is a design technique that lets people know which information is the most important. Here's a non-map example. Maybe you wrote a report when you were in school that looked something like this, and then you made it look a little bit better by adding some formatting. Now it's clear which words are the most important, and it looks a lot more inviting to read, don't you think? Well, the same thing goes for maps. Visual hierarchy just means that some things on the map will attract more attention than others. We like to say that they'll pop. To make something pop, give it a strong contrast with the background. To make something recede, give it a low contrast with the background. I like to start by assessing the current visual hierarchy of my map. What do you notice first? It's probably the large brown polygons, and that's for two reasons. One, they're large, and large things tend to attract attention. Two, they're dark, and the background is light. Dark things have a high contrast with light backgrounds, so they also attract a lot of attention. I can't make these polygons any smaller, but I can make them lighter, for example by increasing the transparency. Now they still attract more attention than the base map because they still have a bit of color, and they're more noticeable than the buildings because they're so large, but overall they're not very noticeable. Now the first thing you notice is probably the Heritage Conservation District's layer, which is what I want. They're not very dark, but they're large, and they have really bright saturated colors. Highly saturated colors attract a lot of attention. This is why safety vests and highlighters are fluorescent orange and yellow. We use these colors for things we want to stand out, to pop, to be noticed. So, the colors are working great for me right now, but I do want to take it further. I'm going to try making the outlines darker. I'll make them black. Black will increase the contrast between the polygons and the pale base map. The outlines also make the polygons appear more detailed than the other features, and detail, like contrast, like saturated colors, attracts attention. By this point, I mentioned several properties that make things pop, including high contrast with the background, highly saturated colors, detailed shapes, and large shapes. This isn't a complete list, and you don't need to memorize it. The trick is to understand your map's goal, then try lots of different things, and with each thing you try, ask yourself, did that make the map better or worse? For example, I'm going to add a drop shadow, just to experiment. These things are always worth a try. Does it make the map better or worse? I think it's better. The shapes now look like they're physically popping off the map. That's great visual hierarchy. Now, sometimes I add a drop shadow to a map and it makes it worse. The point with any symbology option is to try it and get used to asking yourself, better or worse? So, I now have a map where the visual hierarchy is clear and intentional. The first thing anyone is going to notice when they look at this map is the first thing I want them to notice.
Okay.
When people look at your map,
Oops, sorry. Okay.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
When we use transparency in
Mhm.
do we have to use the same amount of transparency to all layers?
Not necessarily.
But for example, then the base map will look different if we use different transparency. I mean, if we use high transparency,
Mhm.
the layer below will pop up more.
Yeah, but it also depends on the base map that you use. There are base maps that are more discrete than others. But I have used different transparencies in maps that I've created, and usually, depending on the feature you're working on with, you might need different transparency because sometimes you want some things to show more than others, like you saw also in the video. So it's very likely that you will work with different transparencies or even different other properties in the different features that you will use on your map. Uh, to give you an idea, I had to develop recently a physical map, or physical maps anyway, of Greece, Europe, and global. Uh, when I had to do that, I had to work with many, many different layers, as you can imagine, because if you want to make a physical map, you need many different things to work together. And imagine that in a physical map, you need to show the deserts, you need to show the plains, the green areas on the globe. So depending on the colors that you use, depending on the backgrounds that you use, these things tie with each other differently. So you have to experiment a lot to see what works better with what. Because when you use a light gray base map, like she worked here, is different. Sometimes you might choose to work with a background like a satellite image, and then you add your layers on top. Then if you have dark areas and light areas in your base map, then you might have to work different with transparencies to make everything fit together. There is a lot of experimenting in what we're talking about here, because even if you have in your mind all the rules, let's say in a way, what you need to keep in mind, you always have to experiment quite a lot to see what works better when you create a map. And sometimes what you create, you have to keep that also in mind, because I've had this experience, so I can tell you that. Sometimes what you prepare in ArcGIS, you have to keep in mind how if it's going to be printed, it's very different from if you want to export it in a JPEG and just use it on your computer. The mix of the layers is completely different, and things that you see relatively light, I mean dark, but not that dark, when you see them on your computer, when you print them, they might look too dark. So in this case, you also might experiment in using different colors and then printing and testing. So it can happen also, okay? So you've got to experiment. You will need to experiment in any case
Okay.
during the, okay? I hope I covered your question.
Yes, yes. Sure.
Perfect. Okay. Let me go on. Okay, so just a few more things. I don't want to give you too much theory, but we have to keep some few things in mind. So we are still talking about how to use and how we create maps, and there is what we call visual variables that have to do with the different variations that we make in the symbology of a map in order to convey a better information to the reader. So as cartographers, in a way, we use visual variables to communicate data effectively and also attractively. So there are different typologies of visual variables that we generally follow when we want to use some things. And some quantitative visual variables are the ones that you see here. In apologies for the Greek, I just realized that the picture in the inside has Greek, but I will try to explain. So the quantitative visual variables have to do with the visual change in size. So you can see here, let me show. So this is the size. These are points, lines, and polygons for our foreign friends. This is texture. This is color grading, and this is color saturation. So we have visual changes in the size, in the texture, in the senses of the pattern that we will use, in the colors that we will use, lighter colors or darker colors, and also in the color saturation, especially when we print maps, okay? So these types of variables are very important when we do thematic mapping because they allow basically the map reader to perceive differences in magnitude or in amount. So usually when we use, and that's something that we all know, when we use a larger symbol, usually it represents, let's say, a greater population in a sense. Or if we use a darker shade, that usually represents something with a higher density, for instance, okay? And there are what we call a qualitative variables. Again, we have points, lines, polygons, and this is the shape, the orientation, and the color grading, let's say. So again, we have to keep in mind these types of visual variables in order to be able to give the reader a better understanding of what we're trying to represent. And then we move on to some, so we're talking about map features in general. One other very important feature on maps, which is not always easy, are what we call labels or annotations. So instead of me commenting on this map, can someone tell me if this map is good, bad? Can you see the information it's trying to convey? Do you understand the information that it's trying to convey? The question is two. Yeah. Maria.
I think it's a little bit confusing
Okay.
because I don't understand what the colors represent. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a gradient. And also there is no legibility, or there is not enough legibility for the viewer, for the user. And I think I don't totally understand the purpose of this map.
Okay. Anybody
Maybe,
else?
yeah.
There is a purpose. I mean, if you think about it a little bit, you can imagine what it's trying to say, but it's not clear on the way that it's said. And it's also not a full map, just gave you a small portion to give you a just, yeah, Vasily.
I think as far as we're talking about labeling,
Yeah.
I think the labeling is very good. I think
Okay.
the problem with the specific picture is the scale.
Mm-hmm.
The scale is it's a very small picture, so letters, words are very dense.
Okay.
I think this is the problem with the map, not the labeling.
Okay. Any other opinion? Ah, I see Nicoletta. Sorry, I didn't see your hand. Sorry.
Is it maybe like the purpose of the map? Is it a temperature map? Because I see a gradient of a redder color near the Mediterranean and more green near the pole, maybe.
Okay, just to help you a little bit, I think this is part of a political map showing some part of Europe. If you notice, there is some rough hillshade effect on the map, so it's trying to show some sort of differences in the landscape. But if you notice, you have the country's name you have United Kingdom, you have Spain, you have Italy, you have, okay, Poland. And then you have the capitals of the countries. Yeah, you can notice that they have a different lettering and a different symbol for the capitals like Paris, London, Brussels, okay? And then you have some smaller cities. You will notice that you have, for instance, here Wales, you have in France, you have Rouen, which is a smaller city. It has a different symbol, but you can see that you have different letter sizes, font size, and different properties on each category of labels. But it's a sort of political map or part of a political map in any case. Um, for me, there is some noise in some parts. I mean, in some areas it's fine, and if you sometimes in these types of maps you are obliged to have a lot of information concentrated in a small area, but there are some places where there is a lot of noise, for instance. So here it's not so good in the sense that you have everything very packed together. Um, the labeling in a map, depending on the map you have to to create, but the labeling in a map is a really time-consuming process. I can tell you that for sure. And as you can also notice from this map, it is a very important part of cartography. Um, Almost all maps have labels. Even some maps, even simpler maps, you will find some labels even in simpler maps. So we need to be able to design carefully created labels in order to make our map readable, presentable, and all of those things that we discussed before. Um, there are many different things that we can do to work with labels. We will talk about them in the following weeks. But just keep in mind that it's a quite tough process. Maria, you have a question? Because I see your
Yes.
hand. Yep.
Just a question. Wouldn't be a part of the visual hierarchy to have, for example, the same font size for all the countries?
Hmm.
And maybe because I see, for example, Belgium is capital and very. My question is, in ArcGIS Pro, do we create like libraries for every different label that we can use as styles?
What do you mean with libraries? Maybe
Uh,
we're
yeah, maybe. So in order to keep for example, on this map, uh,
mhm.
because we can see that a few countries, they have a different font size, would it be a way to keep that in constraints from the software in order to always generate the same font size for all the countries on the specific map?
Okay. Well, yes, there are rules that you can specify on ArcGIS that you can tell it to keep the font size always the same for every country. When you
Mm.
work with labels, um, ArcGIS will primarily try to place all labels. Then there are rules that you can um, either use or not apply. It's up to you because you control everything basically, or almost everything. Sometimes with labels, some things don't work as you want them, but um, you can ask GIS, for instance, to use a font size of 12, let's say, and bold for all countries.
Okay.
But if you if you have this type of maps, it's almost impossible to have the same font size for all countries and all countries are visible. There is some part missing, or it's not exactly missing, but if you go above Greece, there are a lot of smaller countries there, and it's not so visible in this map, but um, here I can definitely tell you that we have some smaller countries missing from this map. I can show you another map as an
I see.
example later to just have a talk. Um, if you have to work with this type of with a political map, let's say, for instance, like this one, it is more likely that you will need to play with the variable size in the countries. So because we have France, and then you might have um, uh, Bucharest, or sorry, not Bucharest, Vienna, or you might have other places that are much, much smaller. So you cannot fit all the font sizes very well on your map. But you can also do that. You can create rules and you can tell GIS, for instance, even that if you have the area of its country, you can ask GIS that if the area of my country is larger than that, then please use font size X. If my area, if the country's area is smaller than something, you can ask GIS to use font size something different. So you can play a lot with the labels. And you have to try to keep as much as possible clear the purpose of your map, okay? But you're right about this, and it's almost impossible to have all the countries with the same letter sizing, or even the capitals in some cases. We will have the opportunity to work a little bit on these things later. Anybody else? Any question? I'm happy this map draw a lot of attention. Okay, so when we're talking about labels, let's see some poor examples here. There are some properties that we keep in mind for the labels to have in order to be ultimately readable and appropriate. So one thing that we look at is what we call legibility or readability. We've talked about this term before. So in the case of this map, how would you characterize the labels?
They seem to be very difficult to read.
Okay, I think we all agree on that. So in this case, the labels look a little bit illegible. So basically, our first goal is to place them on a map in such a way that we can read them, right? They have to be correctly created and placed on the map in a way so that, for instance, the text of the label is large enough for us to be able to read. And we have to try to have some high contrast with the map background in order to be able to distinguish that in relation to the map. We also have to keep in mind the orientation of the label text, the distance of the text in our label, and we have to try as much as possible to have the text of its label surrounded by enough space so that we don't also hide other essential map features that we want to show, okay? So we have to keep some things in mind. The font size is very important in the labels. You can see two different examples here. The map on the right, you can see that the labels are very, very, very small font size, so it's impossible to read anything. And then you can see the map on the left, which is relatively better. We might have been able to do something better, but you can see the difference in the font size between the two maps. Okay, so it's self-evident that the text needs to be large enough to be able to read it. Yeah. Then there is something else that we keep in mind is the text that we use, the colors that we use, and the background in each map. So you can see again, it's the same example, two different maps. You have the νομός στα αγγλικά.
Prefecture, I think.
Prefecture, thank you, sorry. So you can see the prefectures of Greece here. We have different colors used on the different prefectures, and we have also used different colors of the label text. Yeah,
Actually, the
Vasily, ναι.
prefecture is nomos, but those are regions.
You're right, these are the regions, yeah. Okay, so you can see the different regions of Greece here. So in terms of the two maps, what do you think is someone better? Can you make some comment here? What is your opinion?
I think the right one is better with the black letters.
Okay.
The areas that they have dark, they are like East Macedonia, Thrace. It's very dark. It's green, dark green, and also Peloponnese and Sterile lava. It's also a bit dark. But
Okay.
the others are okay.
Okay. In my view, I think that we would, if we were to improve the map a little bit better, I would have chosen to use different color palettes in the three regions also. For instance, oh, sorry, you cannot see my mouse. Okay. In the three regions here, or these four, they are very close. The colors are very close to each other, so it's not easy to make a distinction between them. So we have to keep that also in mind. But just a minor comment. It's uh, so we need to try to use, for instance, if we plan to use in our labels dark colored text, we need to try to have a background that it's a little bit more light colored in order to not have the dark letters and the dark backgrounds mixing with each other. Okay, and we can use other tricks when we make labels in order to make them more legible when we have things like that. We can, for instance, design a small text box, a subtle one with some transparency in order to make it pop out in case we need to. So different options. We will see about it later on for sure. And then we have what we say, the orientation and the spacing of the text in the labels is also important. Again, here you can see two poor examples, one on the left and one on the right. They're both bad examples of labeling. In the one case, if you look at the right, you have too much wide distance between the letters of the text, and you have the labels placed on other regions instead of sticking to their place. And in the case of the left map, if you have a look, the letters are very close together, so it's almost impossible to read what each of them says. So these are two extremes, of course. It's just to give you an idea of bad orientation and spacing in the labels. But we need to keep that in mind. So, and we have to we usually experiment a little bit with that and try to figure out the best solution based on what we want to show based on our labels. Okay, questions so far? What time is it?
I wanted to ask something
Yes.
regarding the orientation.
Mm-hmm.
For example, now we have the names of the regions.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to keep the same orientation, for example, from left to right, or in the center, or from right to left, in any case? Or can we make it, for example, some of them from left to right, or diagonal, or something like that?
Okay.
Is there a rule? For example, in a lesson I had about cartography, they told us that this is like a rule. We don't change orientation for the same in the same features.
Well, I would say that you could change the orientation. It's not, for me, it's not a restriction to have all the labels straight or all the labels, I don't know, oriented towards the one part or another. When you work with ArcGIS, usually by default, I mean, the software gives you the opportunity to choose how your labels are placed, let's say, inside the polygon. So you have different options. You might choose to place your labels straight inside the polygon, like it's here in both cases. And for instance, then you have other options, of course, but it gives you also the opportunity to place them a little bit diagonally, let's say. And you can ask GIS to keep your labels straight if they fit. So it's not a rule. You have to play because in this case, it's very easy to fit all the labels in the places that we want, in this map, I mean. But if you were in another map, you might have needed to make it better by some of your labels being straight and some of your labels being placed in a different way. Sometimes you might also have to ask GIS to draw a little line to connect your label with the area that you're trying to show because it doesn't fit where you want it. So I wouldn't be so strict with the labels
Okay,
because
I
they are
know
quite tough to work on also.
this because especially for Greece, that we have long words or
Mhm.
names that there are two words. It's very difficult to fit. And
Yeah, I
I
know.
tried
Yeah,
many times, and I had this rule that we have to keep the same orientation. Then it overlapped some other information that I didn't want to overlap, and it was very difficult. So that's why I asked.
I know. Labels are really difficult to work with in any case. Although the software gives us many things that we can work with, there might come a time when you worked so much with your labels on your map and one thing that this software does not let you do is move any label individually. So if there is one particular label that you don't like and you want it moved, it doesn't let you do that.
I think I have.
There are ways to do it, but
Yeah,
um,
I have done this. I have done this.
I have done
You
it
have to
too.
convert to graphics, something like that, and you can change
Exactly. Yes,
something like that.
yes. But it's a bit complicated sometimes.
It's pretty
Okay.
complicated. Yes.
Yeah. So labels are a bit tough to work with. Uh, Anybody else? Any other questions so far? Okay, so I propose we have a small break for like 10 minutes or so. Get up, move your feet a bit around,
Mhm.
and we meet in 10 minutes and we go on. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So I will resume the recording and start sharing again. Okay. So thematic mapping is an important part of creating maps, as you can understand. When we talk about thematic maps, we are talking about maps that show a specific theme, indicating a spatial relationship of a feature or of a relationship between features. Basically, through thematic cartography, what we actually do is we try to use information that exists in a database in our layers, in different layers, and we try to geographically represent some properties of that database. Of course, we can create thematic maps even if we have points, if we have lines, or if we have polygons. And what we are usually trying to do with thematic mapping is to try to have to show a spatial distribution of our data. And sometimes the locations or the distances of the spatial units can be relative or even a bit symbolic. So basically, thematic maps are maps that we create with fields corresponding to the database of our information layer. A map, a final map that we might develop, a final layout, may contain different thematic maps, because usually in the maps we create, we might have different layers that we are combining together in order to represent a specific area or some specific characteristics of an area. So the idea is that many times we need to do different thematic maps in our final layout, combine all this together in order to show what we want. So in order for us to be able to create a thematic map, we need in our database to have some variable that can be mapped. This variable can be the name of a formation, the name of geological formations, let's say. It can be numerical, so it can be, we can use the magnitudes of earthquakes, we can use the area of the areas of some phenomena and things like that, but it can also be logical, like yes or no. So depending on the type of data we have in our database, we have different options of thematic cartography that we can use, and it's up to us to select the most appropriate one that we consider. The idea here is that we have a good understanding of our data in order for us to be able to develop an appropriate map. And of course, most of the times in our thematic maps, when we try to represent a specific theme, we may use either different colors, different symbols, or different patterns, depending on what we're trying to depict. So here you can see different maps in this slide, but we will also see some examples in the next slides. So thematic maps can be very, very different in terms of the subject that they represent. Usually they are small scale, so meaning that they show a larger area, because usually what we try to show is the distribution of a specific theme. So we usually show a larger area when we want to show something. So for instance, in this map, you can see the distribution of atmospheric precipitation. So this is a thematic map on that topic, and you can see it's based on an IPCC scenario. Okay, so you can see here the projected basically variation in precipitation for the period to 2040 to 2059. Okay, so it's a thematic map, this one. This is also a thematic map. Here you can see the distribution of population for the year 2013. Okay, so again, we have this sort of type of thematic mapping. It's more simplified, let's say. Okay, and here what we had in our database were numeric values that we could use in order to create this map. Now, when we move into the GIS software, and we have a lot of different options on what to do with our data. So, as you can see in the screenshots here, we can of course create thematic maps either if we have points, lines, or polygons, and we have more or less similar similar options. We will have a look at these different options to have a general idea. So if we look at the different types of thematic cartography, the main ones are the ones that you see in the bullets. So we have what we call unique values. There are value intervals. Sorry, this should have been a bullet. the second one. This one should have been a bullet. And then in the value intervals, we have different options that we can use. We can create charts. In thematic cartography, we have the graduated symbols. There is what we call dot density, and there is also the grid option. And we will see them one by one to remember a little bit what each of them is. So if we look, the first category is what we call unique values. Basically, in thematic maps that we create in this way, the information depicts every different value in the database in a different way. The field where we take the information can be either numerical or nominal, and the unique values method is a quite common thematic cartography method that we use, especially in the geosciences, because, for instance, a very characteristic example is the representation of geological formations on a map. This is the way that we represent these types of features. Here, in the map that you see on the left, let me try to zoom in a little bit because it's a bit far away. So you can see the island of Paros. This is a geomorphological map of the island of Paros, and you can see in the legend on the right that we have basically different information layers. So different thematic maps that we've put together in order to develop this geomorphological map. In the case of the first part in the legend, here is lithology, and we basically used the unique values method in order to represent the lithology in this area. Okay, so we have to always keep in mind that basically thematic mapping can include the combination of many different layers, thematic mapping in each of these layers in order to end up with a map like this one, for instance. And then we have a big category, which is the range of values over value intervals, where we basically we have different options to create a thematic map by categorizing numerical values into some value intervals. Now, we have many different options in how we group the different, or how we categorize the different values. And it's really, it depends on us as creators of the map, and it also depends on the type of phenomenon that we are trying to map. Here you can see an example in the map on the right. This is the island of Naxos, for those of you who don't already know it. And what we have here is the hydrographic density. So it has to do with some characteristic of the river network. And here we can see that we have made a thematic map using the equal interval or equal ranges, which basically has to do with dividing the records in our database in such a way that the value intervals are equal to each other, okay? So you can see here the four groups that have been created, and in the parentheses you can see the number of records that exist in each one of these categories. Okay, so the selection of the method that we do the grouping has to do again with the type of data we have, right? Okay. Then there are other methods when we have to do with a range of values or value intervals. For instance, here you can see, again, we have the same data set, and you can see that we are creating different thematic maps as we move on through the slides. Here you can see an equal count thematic mapping of the same property of the hydrographic density. And basically, in this case, the software categorizes the values into as many groups as we ask, in a way that each value interval includes approximately the same number of records as the others. So you can have a look here. We have more or less similar number of records in each class that we have created. So this type of methodology, for instance, we use very often when we do analysis in geomorphology in the river system. So it's a method that we know that we should use in that case. So again, there is another category, which is what we call natural breaks or jenks. Again, you see the corresponding map here. In this case, the value intervals are created based on an algorithm that the software runs using the mean of its range to try to distribute the data as uniformly as possible. So this is the idea of this type of thematic cartography. Here we have the thematic cartography by standard deviation. It is a different type, again, of creating different groups of values. Then we have what we call quantile or quartile classification, depending on the software. Again, here you can see the corresponding map. Here we don't use it so often. Basically, this method allows to create value intervals to determine the distribution of thematic variables only for a segment of the data. And we usually use this method if we have linearly distributed data. This is not very common for the topic that we are showing on this map. It's just to give you an idea or an example. And then there is something that we also use very often, which is the manual way, in the sense that the cartographer, the researcher, the user anyway, has the opportunity to adjust the number of classes we want to create and the value intervals based on the phenomenon we're trying to show. Here, for instance, we use it quite often when we need to give specific emphasis to some specific standards that we need to follow. So maybe we have specific class boundaries that we need to respect. So in that case, we go to the manual choice. And then there are other ways to represent our data through thematic mapping. One interesting one is also creating charts. So we can, in this case, we can basically create a thematic map by using more than one variable that we have in our database. So for each of these variables, we have this type of pie charts or bar charts that can be created. In this case, for instance, you can see the population of Greece in 3 different years. 1991, 2001, and 2011. So you can see the bar charts for these different years. And there is another option, which is graduated symbols. So basically, the size of the symbol gets bigger as the values get bigger. Basically, we use different size symbols to represent the variation in our database. This is a very common way to show the earthquakes, the magnitude of earthquakes in some specific area. This is a very characteristic example. You can see here you can see a thematic map based on graduated symbols for the area of Greece, and you can see that we have different sizes per group as the size of the magnitude of the earthquake is getting higher and higher. Okay, this type of methodology, of course, can only be applied when we have numerical fields, and we can have either points, either lines, either areas. Then there is the methodology of dot density. Here you can see that basically the information is represented by a multitude of dots, and they basically are distributed within the geographic entities. What we actually do through the dot densities, the higher the value that is being represented, the greater the number of dots. And this methodology is very, very common when we want to depict population density. So this is what you see here. And as cartographers, what we have to define is the size of the dot, because the size of the dot is the same for all the data, and how many units each dot represents. So in this case, you can see, again, we have population distribution here, and you can see that one dot corresponds to 5,000 people, okay? So we have an idea, as the dots are more closer together, we have more people. So this is mostly common in these types of maps. And then there is what we call a grid thematic cartography, which basically has to do with continuous data that are usually represented through color gradients. So this is what you see here, and we will see such examples later on in the next few weeks. But in this type of thematic cartography, we have continuous data, and we create a continuous data grid in this way. Okay, so this in this case, we use the grid thematic cartography to show better the information on elevation and also bathymetric data for the wider area of Zakynthos Island. And here we can see some more examples of thematic maps. For instance, here you can see this is the island of Samos, and you can see different thematic maps. The main feature that is represented here are the lithological formations of Samos Island, and you can see also the fault lines along the island. Okay. So this map, the main topic of this map with the lithological formations was designed by using the unique values method. We have another example here with the bar charts thematic cartography. You can see here we had some samples of geochemical results for the groundwater in the Karlovasi Basin, so we remain in Samos. And you can see here on the legend the three different geochemical results, okay, what each bar represents. So in each of our sampling point, we have the results of the geochemical analysis. Other examples of thematic maps are the ones that you can see here. Again, here on the right, you can see maps that are developed in seismic risk management study. We can see the geographical distribution of earthquakes. This is from, you can see from the 1900s until 2017. And basically, we have different sizes and different colors based on the magnitude of the different earthquakes. And here you can see a grid thematic map. We can see again the island of Samos. You can see basically that we have some relief values that are continuous. So basically, in every pixel that we have on this map, we have a value that corresponds to a specific elevation. And by using the grid value, the grid thematic cartography, we can create some gradual color rendering for each different value. And a few more just to close on the examples. Here again, you can see another thematic map showing the frequency and category of hurricanes in the North Atlantic area. And we can see that also here we have the variable size symbol thematic cartography. Okay, so we can see that depending on the category of the hurricane, we have a different symbology, different color, but also different size. Another example of thematic map you can also see here. This is the fun map, death rates from heart disease in the United States from 2017 to 2019. And we can see again the different data depicted on this map. So, questions so far? You will also have the opportunity to, I see Maria, yeah.
Yes. I have a question on the previous slide. Can we combine the dot density and how do you call that? The graduated symbols together, where you had the hurricanes, this one.
Yeah.
This is a combination.
No.
Oh,
The dot density, but it's just the way the map is created, basically, that gives you the idea of the dot density. Here you have the smaller symbol corresponding to a tropical cyclone, and then the largest red corresponding to a category 5 of a hurricane. You cannot, it's not easy, let's say, to combine two different thematic maps from the same layer. There are ways that you can do it. I mean, there are cheats that you can do in order to combine if you want to show in a better way something. You have the opportunity, even if you want to have the same layer duplicated in your project, and then work with two different thematic maps and see how you can combine them together in order to show what you want to show. You can do that if you want to. It's only a matter if you give more information by doing so. But usually we use one thematic one method of thematic mapping based on for each layer that we are working on.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other question? I don't see any hands. Okay. So the idea is for the next more or less 1 hour that we have left is that we do a small exercise together instead of me still talking. Okay, we will experiment a little bit with thematic cartography. Just to remember a few things for those of you who have not worked a lot with ArcGIS Pro. So my advice is to try to keep up. I mean, we can do the exercise together. So you can, if your computer allows to have your WebEx on and also open ArcGIS Pro and work on it, you're welcome to do that. If you think that the system will crash, you can just follow a little bit what we are doing and you can work on it afterwards on your own. Usually we succeed in doing both together. Yeah, but I can understand that some computers or some laptops are a bit are having some difficulties on that. Okay. So in order for us to work together, you have to go to the e-class and you will go to the, let me remember, to the documents, to our e-class, of course, all right? And if you go to documents and you find the folder GIS data, you will find a zip file called thematic maps. It's the number 1, so you can download that. And while we are on the e-class, I would like to.
Are you talking about the exercise 1 data?
No. I'm talking about going into documents.
Yes, but I
Folder,
see exercise 1 data and 2 and 3. That's all I
no,
see.
I'm talking about GIS data folder. Let me show you. I am in documents. I see these. You have to go into GIS data, not exercises. And you will find the number 1. Did you locate it? Okay.
Nope.
Okay, maybe you're in another class, but have a look at the path that I'm showing you. Are you in GIS04?
You're right. I was not.
Okay,
Yes, I found this.
perfect. Okay. Since I'm also in the e-class, I have to let you know that you will find material in general in here. So you're free to have a look and download whatever you want to experiment on. What is in the folder GIS data means that we will most likely work on it either together or on your own. But you can also have a look, for instance, in the links. I'm also giving you, whenever there is a fun link for you to see or work on, you will find some of the things here. I also have this web page, which is about the visual hierarchy on maps that we talked about before. And I also try to give you some links for where you can download open access GIS data. So this is also for you. It's also helpful for you to practice if you want, or it can be a source of data for either our class or another class that you might need to use. Okay, so keep that in mind. So what we need to do is you download the constituencies file, and you have to open ArcGIS Pro, create a new project, and bring in your project the constituencies file, the thematic mapping layer. So, okay. Your next class today starts at 1 or?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, just checking to know if I should give you 10 minutes earlier or something for you to take a breath. So if anybody needs to help reminding of how to do what I'm doing right now, please let me know, but you should be able to do it on your own. Okay, when you're all ready, let me know. Is anybody at the same phase where I am? Yeah, I see Eleni's head moving. Yeah, okay. Vasil is also the same? Okay. Okay, Constantina? Okay, Yuri also. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So,
Can I say something?
yes.
Because I am working on a MacBook, but it's very difficult right now to run everything together with a virtual machine. I'm gonna try to do that later, but in the
It's
future
okay.
I will buy a PC.
Okay. Yeah, don't worry. In any case, everything is recorded, so you can have the opportunity to work on your own afterwards as well. We're not going to do anything difficult, just to practice a little bit on thematic mapping in any case. This is why I said if anybody else has any problem and thinks that his computer or laptop will collapse, because I know WebEx is a bit heavy as a
Turn off the video will help the.
yeah, it's okay. Yeah. You can turn it off now. I know it will be easier like that.
Okay.
Okay, guys, so we have this information layer, which is called constituencies. It's not very easy to read. So the first thing we should do is to open the database and see what we have. Basically, what you have is a database, sorry, of the election results in the UK in 2015. Okay. Uh, so if you have a look at the database, you will see that you have different fields with different information. Okay, so we have the the field here that I'm highlighting you right now has to do with the name of each of the districts in the UK anyway. So this is the case. Then you have, okay, the name of the winning person. We don't really care about that. But here in this column, which says first, you have information about which party came first in each of these districts, the number of votes that the first party got, the percentage, okay, which says here first share, the name of the second party, again, the name of the votes and the percentage part, the third party, and so on, okay? You get the idea, I think. So the third vote, and then you have the other, which is the rest of the parties clearly, and then you have also a column called turnout that has to do with the number of people that voted per district. Okay, so the idea is that we have, as you can notice, we have different fields, um, different properties in each field. Some fields are numeric, some fields are more descriptive in a sense. So the idea is to create some thematic maps and try to get an idea of what the results were like in the UK. It's safer to work on the UK than talk about Greece. So we will talk about the UK. The first thing I would like us to do is to change the name of our map. You can see on the top here that you have, by default, the software calls the first tab that you open map. But since we have to do with the UK elections of 2015, it's better to be a bit more tidy. So if you click on map and you go to the properties, if someone wants me to repeat something, please just stop me and I will do it. So if you go to the properties, you go to the name of your map, okay? And you can call it UK elections, sorry, 2015, okay? So, okay, perfect. This is the first step. What we want to do now is to create our first thematic map. Our first thematic map has its goal to show which party came first per district. So what do you think we should do about it? So what methodology should we use? Which column do you think we should use? You can open your database, of course, and have a look at what you have. And I also have this file, if it helps me.
First, I think.
Sorry?
The first column, I think.
The first, which is the first? What's the name of the
The
first?
name first.
Ah, the
yes.
name first. Okay, sorry. Okay, apologies first. Okay. Vasilis, what do you think? I see a raised hand.
Yes, we will make single values for this with this column first.
Okay. I see also Sophia's hand up, but I think she's stuck. I don't know if that's the case.
Yes, she wrong.
Okay.
Organized the blueprint.
Okay, no worries. All right, so you all agree this is the field we should use?
I'm sorry, the question was which party came first?
Yes, this is what we want to show on our map.
Okay, maybe if we use the first vote and try to find the biggest number, if we find the first vote column.
This one.
Yes, because this is because of the votes.
Yeah, but you also have this column that tells you which party came first in each district.
Okay.
You
Okay,
already
okay.
have the answer to your question,
I have the
basically.
answer. Yes, okay. You
Yeah.
are right. Thank you.
Otherwise, yes, we would have to do it in a different way, but we give you have all the information available. Okay, so in that
Yeah.
case, we have to work with the unique values, right? Okay. So you all have experience in ArcGIS Pro. I know you're working on it now with the master, but before that, I know our geologists have so. The rest of you have already worked with ArcGIS Pro, or have you worked with another software?
I worked for 5 years with ArcGIS Pro.
Sorry, Vasilis, can you repeat? I didn't understand.
I use ArcGIS Pro 5 years.
Okay, so you have experience. Okay, is there anybody who is learning now ArcGIS Pro? I'm asking because I need to know how detailed they have to be.
Mhm.
Yeah, Maria, I see your hands. Okay.
Yes, I am learning now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So the rest, I think you have some experience. Okay. I think you also have a good introduction in GIS01 for the different things that you need to know about. In any case, in ArcGIS Pro, when we want to work with thematic mapping, we always go to something called symbology. Okay. So if you click on that, you get this new window, let's say, and here we are. We have to determine the type of thematic mapping we want to perform. For the purposes of what we want to do right now, we will choose unique values, like we talked about. Okay, and we have to say to the software based on which field it will do the thematic mapping. So here you have field 1. Instead of an ID, we want to choose first, right? Like we discussed. Okay, so as soon as I choose the appropriate field, we have this thematic map that we can see here. And the second thing you need to do is to decide the color palette that you are going to use and if you need to do any changes. So by default, to me at least, it puts some random coloring on, but you can try and use something else. And Now we are experimenting, so we're not trying to make the map as pretty as possible because we are during the course. But you're free to also experiment on your own later on. So you can just choose a relatively decent color palette. And after we've done that, the second thing we should do, we don't need to spend time now to do it, but you can do it on your free time. What I ask from you from this exercise today is to try when we all complete it. Some of you will not complete it now, I understand, so that's okay. I will open an assignment in the e-class. And do you know how to create PPK files? Huh?
Yes.
Yes.
Maria, no. The
I
rest?
don't.
It's okay, don't worry. I will give directions.
Okay.
The rest of you do? Okay, unless I hear otherwise, I will assume that you do.
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to ask you, when you finish what we're doing today and you're happy with your result, to upload your PPK in the assignments, okay? I will open a field and you will have a few days to do. You can do it by next week. It's okay for me. Okay, you don't have to upload it by the end of the day or something like that. So you have some time if you want to do prettier things. So, okay, we have this thematic map now. Let's say it's the first result that we have, where we can have a first idea of which party came first in each district, let's say. In order for our map to be a bit more effective, we would need also to have a better explanation for each of the abbreviations that we see right now in our labeling here. So what we can do later on, you can do it also on your own later, is for each of the parties, you have, okay, in the symbology you have the value, which is what is drawn from the database, but you have also this part, which is the label, where you can type an appropriate name for each of the parties. I will give you the information so that you can type it accordingly. We don't need to do it now, but I can give you the information so that you do it on your own on your free time. So, for instance, here I could, if I double click, I can write conservatives, okay, or conservative, okay. And then this is also updated. Here. So I will give you a print screen of each of these names of the parties, so you can also do it yourselves. Okay. So let's say now that we want to do something different. You have your database. The question is, based on the database we have, what other interesting results we could show related to elections. So based on the database that you have, do you have any idea? What do you think would be interesting to show in terms of election results? So imagine that you have someone giving you the data and asking you to create 2 maps, 3 maps that can show the basic, that can give the basic information to the public in the UK of how the elections went. The first important part is, okay, which party came first in each district? That's important. What else do we care about? I see the hand of Maria.
Yeah, probably the percentage of how the difference between, for example, the party that was elected was voted 20% more than the other party or something like that.
Okay, so the difference between the parties.
Yes, yeah, like
Okay.
bar charts, as we said before.
Okay, nice. Okay, I see Costadina also.
Yes, I would also may add the winning person, the name.
Okay. I hear you. We will have to discuss afterwards how you think we can do that. I also saw Vasilis' hands, but I don't know if he agreed with Maria or.
Yes, I was going to say the percentage, and maybe I would go for the other vote. Try to find maybe the percentage of the other vote, but I don't know. Yes, there is a share.
Okay.
Maybe this,
And
but sharing percentage.
percentage. Okay, the percentage of the winning parties. This is what you're talking about?
Actually, I would go for the three parties, the first three parties.
Okay.
I would make like pies or yes, pie. I would make pies
Okay.
or charts or something like that.
Or charts. Okay. So, how would you propose we do that?
So let me check. Okay, the first three parties. I would choose first share, second share, third share.
Mhm.
These are my three information I want.
Okay.
I would go for let me
The
check.
bar chart
The
choice.
bar chart or the pie chart.
Okay. So, we can do that. We can experiment on that. I didn't have a specific plan when I had a couple of things that I would suggest to you in any case, but I like it also to be a bit interactive and also hear your ideas. We can also try other things later, but first let's try the suggestion of Vasilis if you all agree.
What I see now is that the how can I say those prefectures. I don't know how they are called in England. In the
I'm not
UK,
sure either, but you can call I call them
there are going to
districts.
be too many pies on the map or too many charts, so it's going to be
Exactly.
so.
Okay, so
going to be-
basically the way we choose to represent the data has to do also with the type of data we have. Because right now we have too many detailed data. We have for each, I think in the case of Greece, it's like we have results for its municipality, let's say. So it's extremely too much information to show on a map of the entire UK. But there are other things that we care about when we have elections. What else do we care about? We can do the other, I mean, to see the other parties, what type of percentage they did, but there's also one important thing that we care about when we have elections.
The turnout?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you care about how many people voted, right? Okay. We should care anyway.
What does
Yes?
what does turnout mean? If the people who didn't vote.
No, the people who voted.
Okay.
The number of people who voted.
Okay.
There is, let me see if I can share it with you just a minute. Where did it go? I don't have it. Okay, I only have it in Greek, so I will try and share it with you later. So this is the column that we were talking about, and it has to do with the number of people who voted. Okay. Okay. Let me remove this a little bit. Okay, there are different ways that we can work because we are basically working on the same, we want to work on the same information layer on the same shape file. So we can do different things here. We can either stay in the same map and we can create a copy of this information layer and do another thematic map with the different way that we want to represent it. Or we can open a new map window and do our thematic map in a different window. It really doesn't make a difference. in the sense that we are not aiming now to be perfectionists. You can open, if you want, another map tab, and oh, let's go here. Sorry, let's go here. Okay, and you can bring your layer from the first tab to the second one as well. I mean, if you copy and paste, you can also bring the same layer here. Okay. So we want to show the turn up, right? Okay. So how do you think we have to work? What type of thematic cartography could we use? What's your idea or ideas? I see Maria's hand.
A question, could it be the dot density kind of thing, or the bar chart?
The dot density could be. We can use the dot density for different things, yes, for sure. I see the hand of Sophia.
Maybe graduated color.
Graduated color, okay. Kostadina? I'm taking opinions.
I would also say graduated colors.
Graduated colors, okay. Does anybody else have another idea? Eleni, you suggested the... No?
No. Graduate
Okay.
colors, fine for me.
Okay, let's try and use the graduated colors. So in that case, since we are working with a numerical field now, right, we have to go to the categories, symbolize your layer by quantity. We choose the graduated colors, and then we have to make some adjustments now. Okay, so the first thing it took was the first vote, okay, independently. Okay, but we don't want to do that. We want to use the field turnout, right? Okay, I do that. Perfect. Did I do it? Do I have an idea now of what's happening?
I think the graduated colors, it's for percentages. It would be better if we had the percentage.
Yes, it would be better if we had the percentage. We don't have it now, do we?
No, we don't have.
We don't have it. Okay.
So,
Any ideas? Yeah. Vasily?
actually, I would create the percentage.
Okay.
I have the electorate. I think it's the total, isn't it?
I think the total, yes.
So I
And you
would
have
create,
also the turnout, right?
yes. So I would create the percentage, another column with the percentage, and I would
Okay.
go with graduated colors on the new column with the percentage.
Okay. What do you think, guys? Is Vasily's thoughts correct?
I think makes sense.
Okay. Okay, we can try and do that, right? Do you know how to do all these things that Vasily said just now? Mariano, I can see your head. Yeah, okay. Okay, we will do it together, okay? So what actually Vasily suggests is that we create a new field in our database where we ask GIS to calculate the percentage of the turnout, right? Okay, so it's very easy to do that. I have to first add a new field, okay? Which I will call it turnout. Okay, Bella. Yes. Oh, it's not letting me. Okay, turnout underscored P from the percentage, okay, because it doesn't like a long fields. Okay, what type of data type I should choose? Does anybody have an idea? To also give an idea on Maria what we are doing?
Double.
Double, okay. Constantina, do you agree?
Yes, or maybe short. I was between those two.
Okay. Usually when we want to calculate something in GIS, we might prefer double, okay? Okay, do we need to do anything else? We created the field. We said what type of data type we have. Do we need to do anything else?
Save.
Save it and make the calculate.
Okay.
Actually, the next step is to calculate values, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. We will go to the next stage. Okay, so the field that we created is the last one in our database now, okay? So if we go there, okay, if you right click on your field, you get the menu, and basically you can see that you have different options, okay? You have what we call calculate field and calculate geometry. The calculate geometry does exactly what it says. It goes and it calculates different properties like the length, the area, the coordinates, if you have some points, and other things like that. If you want to make some sort of, if you want to type some sort of calculation expression, you have to go to what is called calculate field, okay? So we go here. Okay. Does somebody want to tell us what we're going to do? Constantina.
Well, I will. Okay, I will leave it the first. How can I say it? Things as they are, and I will go to the turned out P equal.
Okay.
Yes, there. I will then double click from the field part the how say it lector, how say it, I'm sorry.
Electorate.
Yes.
Okay, we are forgiven if we're not pronouncing it correctly, I think.
Thank you. After that, I will double click the divided thing.
Aurea.
Yes.
Okay.
And then again from the field part, the turnout.
Mm-hmm.
We need also, I don't know it in English, parenthesis.
You mean this?
Yes, and from at the start. And
Okay.
multiplied it with 100.
By 100.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. You are correct. Your expression is valid according to the GIS. So after we've done all that, we click OK, and then in theory we have our turnout percentage. Okay, it's a bit more than 100 for each one.
I think we don't have to multiply by 100. I think you don't have.
Yeah, we can skip it, but I'm not sure. I think, okay, even if we are wrong, we can always go back and remove what we typed. And I don't think I have a mistake now. Okay. Now we got this number.
Yes.
Doesn't make much sense, to be honest.
Electorate is how many people are living in the region.
Yes.
Okay, so and the turnout it's
The
how
people
many
who
people vote.
voted. Yeah.
So maybe we had to electorate
Yes.
the people who are living minus the people who voted.
Mm-hmm.
And now we got the how many people no didn't vote. No, sorry, I don't know.
Vasily?
It's a turnout divided to electorate. It's the other way around.
Okay. Konstantina?
I think Vasilis is correct.
Okay. It's okay. Don't worry. It happens. So it's okay. Oh, I forgot the 100. Okay. 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 Better? Makes more sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now that we have this value, the percentage of the turnout, we can also create the corresponding thematic map. Okay? Okay. You go to symbology as we did before, but now you need to hint the new field that we've created. So if you go, let's say that we stick with the graduated colors, okay? You go to the field, you select the turnout percentage, and you get this, this thing. Okay, I have a question for you though. This is a bit automatic, like we gave the field, right? And you can see below in the methods and the classes that GIS did it by default. So we didn't change anything actually. We just let GIS do whatever it wanted. So the question to you is if you feel that we need less classes or more classes, or if you feel that it might be better to use another method to divide our groups. Vasilis, is your hand raised now or from before?
No, I forgot.
It's okay.
But we can choose the same interval. But I don't know how it shows.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
We can choose the same interval, like every 5%, to change the color every 5%, for example, something like that. I don't know. I don't know if I can say it in English now.
Για πες το στα ελληνικά.
Να υπάρχει equal, ίδιο, για κάθε χρώμα, ίδια διαφορά στο 5%, να αλλάζω, ένα 5% εκεί.
Okay, so Vasilis is suggesting that we use the same percentage difference per class, so like 5%, let's say, so that we can see this type of difference. Okay, we could do that. There are which Okay, we can, I think, go with defined interval and give the interval size, right? So we said that we want every 5%, right? So in that case, I think let's try and do that. Yeah, so you get something like that. Do you think we get a good idea of the percentages like this? What's your opinion? Not only Vasilis, all of you. So basically you have a map where you can see the turnout per district. So the percentage of people who voted per district. For sure, I don't like the colors. We need to change, at least for me, because it's red. I don't know what it is to you. But so for sure we can, we have to change that. But apart from that, what is your view? You're trying to evaluate your results. So you need to start thinking in sense of how would a person be able to read this map like this?
I
Sophia?
have a question. Oh,
Ah,
sorry.
yeah. You can ask first, of course.
Just a clarification because I don't totally understand the 5% interval and how that works.
Ah, okay. Well, I did it based on Vasilis' proposal. Okay, so we have percentages of people who voted, right? So the interval size has to do with the difference between each class. So I can ask GIS, this is what it actually did. So you have a class from 50 to 55, then from 55 to 60, from 60 to 65. So I defined the exact interval that I want, the step that I want GIS to do the classes
Okay,
in
understood.
this way. So this is why we have 8 classes, because we have the lowest number was what we see here, 49 point something, and the largest number was larger than 55. Sorry, 85, not 55. Okay, but I could change that. I could make that a 10, for instance. Okay, and we get this type of thing. So again, sometimes we have to experiment a bit and see what is better for what we want to show. Sophia, you wanted to say something. But...
I have an error, but I fix it. It's okay.
Okay, good. Okay, so guys, what do you think? Is this a good map?
Gives an idea.
Hmm?
It gives an idea.
It gives an idea. Okay. Vasily says it gives an idea. The rest of you?
I think it's a readable map.
Okay. Not only mine, what you have at your laptops, of course, huh? Okay. So we have done two things so far. We have shown in a draft version in any case. We have a map where we show for each district which party came first. Then we have a map where we show the percentage of turnout, right? This is also an important thing to know when we have elections. So in order for you to deliver, let's say, your first the assignment in the end, it will be nice to also for you to try to do a layout, okay, where, so this is why I give you some time until the next time we meet. Please try to use both things that we created. So what you have is the winning party per district or whatever, and you have the turnout. So the request is for you to create a new layout where I will just make a draft right now, where you present in the same page, right? So in the same white page, both maps. Yeah, it's not difficult. So both maps And it's up to you to decide the colors you will use based on the things you've already heard, the legend that you can use, and what other elements you feel that you need to add. Okay, so this map will be just a JPEG in the end. It's not going to be something super complicated. Okay, for Maria, who I think is the less experienced in amongst our group, just to give you an idea. I don't know if you've already worked with layouts during your previous lessons. This is basically the space where we develop the final map. So this is where we finalize our scale, our the elements, the extra elements that we will have on our map, and things like that. So it's a different space in relation to the maps that we are already working on, and so it has a different sense in relation to the maps. So if you zoom in, zoom out here, you don't change the scale of the map, you just change the zoom in, zoom out of the paper that you're using. You have different paper sizes that you can use. It really depends on what you want to do and what type of map you want to design. And then you have two basic tabs that you work on when we are on the layout. There is a tab that is called Insert. And here you can find this part here, which is the map surrounds, where you can add a north arrow, your scale, your legend. You can also add a chart if you want. You can add text. You can do different things like that. And then here in the layout, you have navigation tools, or if you want to change the size or the orientation of your page. So if I go here to insert, what did we say? We said that we want to add both maps. So I need to add both map frames. I'm doing it in a draft version now, okay? So I want this map frame, and I want also this map frame, okay? Then you have to start being more artistic in a way, in the sense that you have to keep in mind that when you work with layout, you have the opportunity to align features. So try to make things visually pleasant. So it would not be nice if you have this map here and this map randomly placed somewhere, I don't know, here. So try to have some symmetry on what you're preparing. You have choices that have to do with alignment between objects. So you have more graphical options here in the layout, basically, in relation to everything else. And for each of your windows, now let's say that's, sorry, let's bring it here, align it a little bit. Okay, I also want to try to have the same scale in both maps and the same placement in the center of my map, okay? So if I want to, right now you cannot change the scale on neither of them. So if I want to change the scale and move the map around in relation to the map frame, I can do it by, if I right click here, the first choice is called Activate. And what it actually allows me to do is to move the map around. So I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can do different things. I can change the scale from here on the lower part. So I can do different things here. So it's good to define a specific scale for both maps so that it's the same for both of them, okay? And when I'm ready, I close the activation window. I do the same for the second map, and then it's up to you to, well, add the title if you want, whatever you think might be appropriate. You can try and be and have some fun with it, in the sense that it doesn't have to be something very strict. You can, if you're feeling creative, feel free to be creative. When you are ready, you've finalized everything. There is on the top here something called share, and there are two different things that we can do. One easy thing is to just export what we've just done. If you click on the export button, you can just export it in a JPEG, which is the most typical thing that we usually do. And then there is the other thing that I mentioned, which is if you know how to create a PPK file that I mentioned before. What a PPK file is actually like a zip file, but for ArcGIS Pro, okay? So it basically puts everything together into a sort of like a zipped file that you can share with other people. So everything is in the same place. You can do this by working on share again. There is this part here, which is called package. And if you click on the left part, which says project, you get this new menu where it's quite easy to do what you want to do. You, first of all, have to select the save package to file so that it creates the PPK. Otherwise, if you select the first one, it will upload your map on your online account. It's not a problem, but just have an idea of this is what it's doing. Okay, you have to choose where you will store it, and then we suggest that you first click on the analyze, because sometimes when you are working on a project, there might be some errors. So by analyzing your project, you will get a warning from the system if there is a problem. And if it's not, you see zero, no errors or warnings. I click on the package, and then I have my sort of zip file for ArcGIS. Okay?
Okay.
Do you have any questions? Yes, Kostadina.
Yes, I have one. Is it mandatory to create two maps? And the reason that I'm asking is because for the turnout percentage, we may use for this from the symbology the dot density, and at this.
It's up to you.
Okay.
It's not, if some of you have an idea of how to, okay, the request is for you to present both things, the winning party per district and the turnout percentage. If you feel that you can do it in one map, but give the information so that the information is clear, okay, that's the main request. You are free to be, this is why I said you can be creative, so it's really up to you how you select to do it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question?
I have a question.
Yes.
Instead of creating a new map, in order to create a new map, we have to export feature from the initial shape file.
Oh, can you ask again? I didn't understand the question. Sorry.
Instead of opening a new map, okay, make this the two different maps actually in one map layer. One map. How can I say? One map in ArcGIS Pro.
Okay.
We have to export. Can I share my?
Yes, yes, yes. Let me give you the rights. One moment. I think I can stop recording also.